The sun on planet Virex 9 was brutal. It burned the red dust like fire. Wind howled across the silent battlefield. Broken machines and fallen bodies were scattered everywhere. It looked like the planet itself had cried and then gone quiet. Jace Carter, a human engineer from Earth, walked slowly through the wreckage. His boots crunched over metal and cracked bones. His oxygen mask hissed with every breath. He had come with the recovery team to search for survivors, or at least something useful. But there was nothing here, just death and dust. Then, he heard, at a weak sound, a cough, a whisper. He turned quickly, scanning the ruins. Again, there it was. A soft gasp, like someone choking on dry air. Jace ran toward the sound. He pushed aside a broken piece of alien armor. Beneath it was a body, a woman. No, not human. Her skin was pale blue, almost glowing. Her hair was long, silver like moonlight, and her body was covered in cuts and bruises. Her armor was torn and burned. She was barely breathing. Her eyes fluttered open. Glowing violet eyes locked onto Jace's face. "Please," she whispered. "Don't leave me." Jace knelt beside her. Hey, you're alive. You're going to be okay." She tried to speak again but coughed, blood on her lips. She was shaking. Jace quickly checked her wounds. One leg was broken. She had burns on her arms, and a deep gash on her side that was still bleeding. Jace knew the rules. Humans were not supposed to interfere with alien soldiers. This planet had just seen a brutal battle between two alien factions, the Zalari and the Drex. No humans were allowed to get involved, but how could he just leave her? He looked into her eyes again. She was trying to stay awake, trying to live. "Hang on," he said. "I'm going to help you." He pulled a med pack from his bag and sprayed her wounds with biogel. She winced in pain but didn't scream. She was strong. Jace wrapped her side with pressure bandages and carefully lifted her into his arms. "You're light," he said, surprised. She tried to speak. Her voice was soft. "You save me. I am yours." What? But her eyes closed and she passed out. Jace didn't wait. He ran back through the ruins, dust rising behind him. He called for his ship on his comm and the hoverpod arrived in minutes. He placed her gently inside and strapped her in. "Hang in there," he whispered again. "Whoever you are, you're safe now." As the pod lifted off, Jace couldn't stop looking at her. Even injured and dirty, she looked otherworldly, beautiful and strange. She had strange tattoos on her arms, glowing faintly. A royal mark, maybe, he didn't know. But something in her last words made his chest tighten. "I am yours." Was that part of her language? Or had she meant it? He shook the thought away and focused on flying. They had to get to the shelter fast. He didn't even know her name. But he knew one thing. He couldn't let her die. Not after looking in her eyes. The room was quiet. Too quiet. Tavalari opened her eyes slowly. The ceiling above her was smooth, metal, and unfamiliar. Blue lights hummed softly on the walls. Clean air flowed through vents. She was not in the battlefield anymore. She tried to sit up. Pain shot through her side and she gasped. Her body was wrapped in soft bandages. Her leg was splinted. And her weapons were gone. Panic rose in her chest. Where was she? Who had touched her? Then the door opened. A tall human male stepped in, holding a bowl of warm broth. He paused when he saw her awake. "You're up?" he said gently. "That's good news." Her eyes narrowed. She didn't trust him. She didn't trust anyone. Not after the ambush. Not after what the Drex did to her squad. She tried to speak, but her throat was dry. She reached for the cup of water beside the bed with shaking fingers. He stepped forward to help, but she hissed at him, baring her teeth. Raised his hands. Okay, no touching. Got it." She sipped the water, never taking her eyes off him. "Where am I?" Her voice was raspy but strong. "My shelter. This is Sector 9A, east of the crash site," he replied. You were dying. I pulled you out of the wreckage. I patched you up best I could." She looked down at her side. He had used human medtech carefully. Her wound wasn't infected. Her blood had stopped leaking. He had even cleaned the dirt from her face. Her eyes locked on his again. "You saved me?" He nodded. "Yeah." Her expression shifted, almost disturbed. "You touched me. You bound me." "What?" He blinked. "I just helped. I wasn't trying to." "I am Tavalari," she said suddenly, her voice growing firm. "Daughter of the High Warlord of Clan Zalari. According to my culture, if a dying noble is saved, her life belongs to her rescuer." He dropped the soup bowl. It hit the ground and splashed across the floor. I don't want anyone to belong to me," he stammered. "I just couldn't leave you there." But Tavalari wasn't listening. She pulled herself up, ignoring the pain, and slowly bent forward in a bow. A royal bow of submission. "I am yours now," she said. "By blood law and soul bond." He backed away. "Look, I think you're confused. You don't owe me anything. You can leave when you're healed. No strings." She looked up, eyes full of fire. "You do not understand. I have declared my bond before witnesses. The stars have seen it. The ancestors have heard it." "What witnesses?" There was no one. "There. I spoke the words," she said, tapping her chest with a trembling hand. "In my culture, that is enough. You saved me. I am yours. If you reject me, I face exile. Or death." His mouth went dry. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. This was something far deeper. Tavalari lowered her gaze. "I know humans fear us. Think us cold and violent. But I would not dishonor my family or myself. I will serve. I will protect. I will bond." He swallowed hard. "I don't even know your name until now." She tilted her head. "Then learn it well. Tavalari. And you?" "Jace," he said softly. "Jace Carter." There was a long silence between them. Then suddenly the warning alarm beeped on his wall panel. Jace turned, eyes wide. "That's a ship. Landing nearby." Tavalari's body stiffened. "Zalari, they've come for me." Jace rushed to the screen. A black cruiser hovered low, its sides glowing with clan markings. Tavalari closed her eyes. "They will not like what they see. They may try to kill you." Jace turned slowly, staring at her. "Because I saved you?" "No," she whispered. "Because now, I am your wife." The ground shook as the Zalari cruiser landed just outside Jace's shelter. Dust blasted against the walls. The air turned, heavy. From the small window, Jace could see shadows moving. Tall, armored figures in black and gold. Tavalari sat still on the cot, her eyes glowing softly, but her face was pale. "They have come for me," she said, "but they will not be kind to you." Jace checked his pistol, though he knew it wouldn't help against what was coming. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You touched me," she replied calmly. "To them, that is everything." Before Jace could reply, the door burst open. 5 Zalari soldiers marched inside, weapons raised. Their faces were hidden behind sharp helmets, their armor buzzing with power. Behind them stepped a tall female officer, with jagged markings on her arms, a ranking clan warrior. Her voice was cold. "Who is the human who dared touch our princess?" Jace stood still, hands open. "I saved her. She was dying." "You claimed her," the officer snapped. "By your touch, she is yours. Do you deny it?" "I didn't claim anything," he shouted. "I just helped." Tavalari's voice rang out from behind him, strong despite her weakness. "I declared the bond. He saved me. He is now my life mate." The soldiers murmured behind their masks. The officer's eyes narrowed. "You speak this by choice?" "I do." "Then it is law," the officer said. She turned to Jace. "Human, you are now bound to the Zalari princess. That makes you noble. That also makes you a target." "I didn't ask for this," Jace replied, frustrated. The officer stepped closer. "Then you may face challenge. The warlord does not approve of this bond. If he rejects you, there will be consequences. Tavalari tried to rise, but pain held her down. No one challenges the life debt, not even my father. He will, the officer said. He is already on his way. Jace's stomach dropped. He's coming here? The officer gave a sharp nod. Your name, human? Jace. Jace Carter. She stared at him for a long moment. Then, without emotion, she said, You will prepare to prove yourself, or die. An hour later, the shelter was surrounded. Jace paced nervously while Tavalari lay quiet, watching him. What happens if your father doesn't accept me? He asked. You will be removed from this world, either by blade or by exile ship. And you? I will be taken back, she said, voice tight. Shamed, possibly executed. Jace's eyes widened. Executed? For surviving? For choosing a human? He stared at her. Why me? Why didn't you stay silent when I helped you? She looked away. Because when I opened my eyes, you weren't afraid of me. You didn't ask for anything, you just acted. There was silence between them. Then the ground rumbled again. The main screen in the shelter flashed with a warning. High Commander approaching. Zalari Warlord incoming. Jace stood frozen. Tavalari's hand reached out, weak but steady. Do not bow to him. If you kneel, he will see you as prey. Jace looked down at her hand, then at the door. I won't kneel. The metal door slid open and the Zalari Warlord stepped inside. He was massive, taller than any soldier. His armor was deep crimson, lined with scars. His eyes glowed like molten fire. A scar ran from his forehead down to his jaw. And when he spoke, his voice was thunder. You, human, you dare claim my daughter? Jace met his eyes. I didn't claim her. I saved her. Yet she lives. And she speaks the bond. The warlord growled. That means you accept the burden. What burden? To prove your worth. Tomorrow, you will face the trial. Jace swallowed. What kind of trial? The warlord turned away. If you live, you keep her. If you die, she is forgotten. As he left, the door slammed shut again. Tavalari whispered from the cot. You should run. Now. But Jace shook his head. I'm not leaving you. The night on Virex 9 was cold and silent. Even the stars above seemed to watch in silence. Inside the shelter, Jace sat alone on a bench staring at his hands. Hours ago, he was just a human engineer, an ordinary man. Now he was caught between alien law and death. Outside, Zalari guards stood like statues. He was no longer free. Valari lay quietly on the cot, her breathing shallow. The painkillers helped, but her body still trembled. She watched him with careful eyes, seeing more in his silence than words could say. You don't have to do this, she said softly. Jace looked up. What do you mean? You can still ask for release. My father will allow it. He may punish me, but you will live. He frowned. Let him hurt you? After all this? You are not Zalari. You are not bound by our laws. Jace stood up. Maybe I'm not Zalari, but I'm not a coward either. Before Tavalari could reply, the door opened once again. This time it was the warlord himself, no guards, no fanfare, just him and his voice like iron. You had time to think, human, he said. Do you choose to accept the trial? Jace nodded. I do. The warlord stared at him for a long moment, then slowly stepped inside. His presence filled the room like a storm. I expected you to refuse, he said. Most humans do. They take what they want, then run. I'm not most humans, Jace replied. The warlord's lips curled into something close to a smile, but it wasn't kind. Then listen well. At dawn, you will enter the stone labyrinth. There are no maps, no weapons, no guides. Jace blinked. What's in the labyrinth? The warlord's tone darkened. It is not what's in the labyrinth. It is what's been left there. Monsters, beasts, and memories of those who failed before you. Tivalari whispered, "No one has survived it in 3 years." Jace took a breath. "I'll survive." The warlord stepped closer, towering over him. "If you do, if you prove yourself, I will honor the bond, I will accept you as her mate." "And if I don't?" Jace asked. The warlord's eyes burned. "Then you'll die screaming, and your bones will feed the labyrinth." Later, that night, Tivalari reached out to Jace. Her fingers found his, cold and trembling. "I never wanted this," she said. "I thought I would die on that field, alone." "But you didn't," he said gently. "And now we're both in this." She looked into his eyes. "Why do you care? You could have walked away so many times." Jace gave a small, sad smile. "Because when I saw you under that wreckage, something in me said, 'Don't let her go.' And now I can't." Tivalari closed her eyes. For the first time since the crash, she felt something warm inside her chest. A strange human emotion. Hope. Just before sunrise, 2 guards arrived and led Jace out of the shelter. He stood at the edge of a massive stone wall. The sky above was purple and cold. In front of him stood the entrance to the labyrinth, an ancient gate carved with alien symbols and skulls. Tivalari stood behind the line of soldiers, her body weak, but her eyes full of fire. She watched him, and he looked back at her. No words were spoken. The warlord raised his hand. "Begin." The gate groaned open. Jace stepped inside, and the door slammed shut behind him with a deep, echoing boom. He was alone now. Only the darkness of the stone labyrinth awaited him. The stone gate behind Jace slammed shut with a deep final thud. Darkness swallowed him. The air inside the labyrinth was thick and damp. The walls were rough, breathing cold from ancient stone. There was no light, until the floor lit up with a faint red glow. Every step he took echoed like a warning. Back, at the outer camp, Tivalari sat in a hover chair, her wounds barely healing. But her eyes never left the large screen where Jace's movement was being tracked from above. She wasn't supposed to care. Zalari nobility were taught to hide emotion, but her hands trembled every time his signal paused too long. "Why is he taking the long path?" One soldier whispered. "Maybe he's smarter than he looks," another muttered. "Or maybe he's already lost." Tivalari ignored them. Her heart pounded. Not because of fear, but because of guilt. This was her fault. He was walking into death for her. Inside the labyrinth, Jace turned a corner and froze. There was something ahead. A massive 4-legged beast crouched in the shadows. It looked like a mix of reptile and insect. Thick armor plates on its back, glowing green saliva dripping from its mouth. Its eyes burned like coals. Jace didn't move. The creature sniffed the air, then lunged. Jace dove to the side. He crashed into a wall, scraping his arm, but stayed alive. The beast slammed into stone and roared. "No weapon, no map. No clue what I'm doing," Jace muttered as he ducked behind a pillar. The creature charged again. This time, Jace grabbed a piece of broken metal from the ground, sharp, jagged, and heavy. As the beast charged again, Jace stepped into the attack and plunged the shard into its eye. The creature screamed, loud and terrible, and thrashed violently. Jace jumped away as it collapsed in front of him, twitching, then still. He dropped the shard. His chest heaved. His arms bled. But he was alive. Back at the camp, Tivalari stood up despite the pain. "He's still moving," one of the guards said, surprised. "He killed the Kravari." The warlord, who had watched in silence, gave a slight nod. "He has courage, but that wasn't enough. Not yet." Hours passed inside the labyrinth. Jace's shirt was torn, his leg bruised, and his hands cut. He found an underground stream and drank like a man who hadn't seen water in days. As he rested, he noticed something odd: scratch marks on the wall, old carvings, a pattern, a message. "Go left. Always left." He followed it, step by step. Each turn he moved left, marking the walls with broken chalk. He began to hear echoes, growls, roars, the buzz of flying creatures, but he stayed ahead of them. Then, a sound stopped him cold. A scream. It wasn't his imagination. It was Tavalari's voice. Jace. He ran. Even if it was a trick, he couldn't ignore it. He reached a wide chamber, lit by natural light shining through a cracked ceiling. There, chained to a column, was Tavalari. But she was wounded again, her armor gone, her face bloodied, and something monstrous guarded her. A six-legged creature twice the size of the last beast, its back covered in burning red spines. Jace stared in horror. How? Why is she here? The answer came too late. The final trial wasn't just about strength, it was about heart. Outside, the warlord watched from a private feed. His face was still. He chose the heart path, he said, the most dangerous. The guards looked at each other. But she's not in the maze. The warlord's eyes narrowed. No, but the maze created an illusion of her, to test what truly matters to him. Inside the chamber, Jace ran forward, dodging a tail whip from the beast. It roared and slammed the ground. He screamed in fury and climbed up a pile of debris. As the monster struck again, Jace leapt from above, driving a spear-like bone through its neck. The beast shrieked, writhed, then fell dead. Breathing hard, Jace crawled to Tavalari. Her chains vanished, her body faded into glowing light. She had never been there. But her voice echoed softly in his ears. You came for me. A door opened in the wall. Light poured through it. Jace limped toward it. He had survived the trial, and now he was not just a survivor. He was a warrior. The stone gate opened with a loud grinding sound. Dust rose as Jace stepped out of the labyrinth, his clothes torn, his face bruised, his eyes tired but burning with purpose. He walked slowly, dragging one leg, blood staining his shirt. But he was alive. Solari soldiers stood in stunned silence. One by one, they moved aside. Tavalari, still weak, stood with help from her hover chair. Her breath caught in her throat when she saw him, limping but walking toward her like a ghost from a legend. He stopped just in front of her. Told you I wouldn't leave you. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Instead, she stepped forward and gently placed her hand over his chest where his heart pounded wildly. You faced the trial, not for glory, not for law, but for me. Jace gave a tired smile. Seems like I passed. Before she could respond, a loud metallic roar shook the ground. All turned as a Drexian skiff dropped from the sky behind them. Its weapons pointed straight at the Zalari. The air crackled with energy. From inside stepped a massive Drex captain, his body armored in black and bone. His eyes locked onto Tavalari. That woman belongs to us, he growled. She carries information. We will take her now. Tavalari's face turned pale. They tracked me. They want what I know about the Zalari shield grid. The warlord stepped forward. You dare violate our ground? But the Drex captain raised his weapon. This is not your concern. The human brought her back. We simply retrieve what's ours. Tavalari moved toward Jace. They don't care if I live or die. They'll cut it from me if they have to. Jace stepped between her and the Drex. His hand reached for a blade dropped by a guard. He stood tall, his voice calm but firm. If you want her, you'll have to go through. Me? The Drex captain laughed. You think we fear one broken human? Jace raised the blade. You should. Before anyone could move, the Drex opened fire. Energy bolts screamed through the air, and just like that, chaos exploded. Jace charged forward, dodging blasts, using the terrain to move fast despite his injured leg. He leapt onto the skiff and drove the blade into one of the Drex soldiers, sending sparks flying. Tavalari grabbed a fallen blaster and rolled behind a rock. She shot with fierce precision, protecting the Gi. Humans and Zalari alike. The Drex didn't expect resistance from her or the human, The warlord roared a command. "Defend the princess!" But even as the Zalari engaged, Jace was already climbing the side of the skiff. He kicked open the hatch and came face to face with the Drex captain. "Enough!" the captain shouted. "You're just a filthy earth scavenger." Jace didn't speak. He just punched. Then he kicked the Drex out of the skiff and took the controls. Back on the ground, the remaining Drex panicked as the skiff turned and aimed at them. The engines fired. The blast sent shockwaves across the field, throwing the enemy into the dust. Silence fell. The Drex ship was empty, smoking. Jace stepped out of the wreckage, bruised, burned, but unbroken. Tivalari ran to him and caught him as he nearly collapsed. "You hijacked a Drex ship?" she asked in disbelief. "Borrowed it," he said, coughing. Didn't like their attitude. The warlord stood in silence. His jaw tightened as he looked at Jace, this human who had passed the trial and now fought like a Zalari warrior for one of their own. He walked slowly toward them. Tivalari stood protectively in front of Jace, her hands raised. "If you reject him now, I reject the bond. I'll go into exile. I'll die beside him." The warlord stared at his daughter, then at Jace. "No," he said at last. Everyone tensed. "I do not reject him," the warlord continued. "He has passed trial. He has fought beside us. He has earned the bond." Tivalari gasped. Jace tried to stand tall, though pain still shook him. "So that means—" The warlord extended his hand. "You are now of House Zalari, not as servant. As equal. As mate." Jace took the hand. The bond was accepted, not by blood, but by fire. The sun was rising over Virex 9. Orange light spread across the battlefield ruins, the same place where Jace had found a dying woman under metal and dust. But now things had changed. Tivalari stood tall beside him, dressed in ceremonial armor, her skin glowing faintly in the light. The wounds on her body had started to heal, but something deeper had changed within her. This wasn't just about survival anymore. Today was the bonding ceremony, a sacred tradition of the Zalari, a time when two lives were joined before the stars, clan, and law. The warlord stood in the center of the great circle, holding a crystal blade in one hand and a silver thread in the other. Around him stood over 100 Zalari, nobles and warriors, silent and watching. Their eyes were not kind but not hateful either. They watched with curiosity. A human joining their royal bloodline? Unheard of. Jace stood across from Tivalari, his own body still sore from the trials. A fresh robe had been given to him, a mix of Zalari silver and earth navy blue. He didn't understand half of the ancient symbols on it, but he wore it proudly. He looked at her. "Are you sure about this?" Tivalari smiled softly. "You walked into fire for me, Jace. I am sure." The warlord raised his voice. "This human, by courage, by trial, and by choice, has claimed his place beside my daughter. But before the stars witness this bond, he must speak his truth." Jace stepped forward. He looked out at the sea of alien faces, many of them still full of doubt. Then he looked at Tivalari. "I didn't grow up with warriors. I never led armies. I fix machines and carry tools. I never thought I'd be standing here on an alien world fighting monsters and facing death." He paused, breathing deep. "But when I saw her, dying alone, I didn't think. I just acted. And after that, I couldn't walk away. Not because of rules or honor, but because I chose her." He turned to Tivalari and added, voice steady, "I don't want you to be mine because of law. I want you to choose me like I chose you." The warlord was silent for a moment. Then he nodded. The silver thread was tied between their wrists. The crystal blade passed over it, and it began to glow. The bond was complete. Later that night, Jace sat on a quiet hill outside the Zalari camp. The stars above were endless. Tivalari sat beside him wearing a soft robe, her hair blowing in the wind. "They still stare at me," Jace said. They stare because you changed something, she replied. You broke a rule no one dared to question. Jace looked at her. Do you regret it? Tivalari turned to face him, her eyes glowing faintly. I regret not knowing sooner that love is stronger than blood. He smiled. She leaned closer. The stars may not understand us, but they watched our bond and they didn't stop it. He reached for her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. We write our own law now, he said. She rested her head on his shoulder. Then let's write something the galaxy will never forget. Above them, the stars shimmered. 2 lives. 1 human, 1 alien, had changed fate not with war, but with choice. And from the dust of battle, a new story had begun.